An immigrant family, once filled with dreams of achieving the American dream, found themselves ensnared in a tragedy that shattered their existence. The haunting tale that unfolds reveals a web of manipulation and crime, leaving them utterly broken. Join us as we delve into this narrative with Crime Documentary Files. On the night of September 25, 1993, chaos erupted in a Chicago apartment complex garage when two gunshots echoed, abruptly silencing the air. A man collapsed, lifeless by the time the police arrived. In a swift response, officers apprehended a suspect nearby. To their astonishment, the shooter was revealed to be Andrew Coo, a 19-year-old high school student renowned for his exemplary academic achievements. The victim was Robert Odebain, the boyfriend of Andrew's older sister, Catherine. As the investigation progressed, police peeled back the horrifying layers of secrets surrounding the incident. Each revelation painted a more disturbing picture than the last. What emerged was a blood-soaked conspiracy, woven with intricate motives that defied initial assumptions. What dark secrets lay behind this tragic murder? Born in 1974 to a Korean family of 4, Andrew Coo was the younger sibling, cherished by his family. Before their journey to the United States, the Coo family lived a life of prosperity in South Korea. Mr. Coo hailed from a distinguished lineage, embodying the image of a young gentleman who later secured a significant role in the South Korean military. Mrs. Coo, a dedicated pharmacist, shared in the pride of their 2 children, a son and a daughter. During the 1970s, the family resided in a lavish apartment in Seoul, enveloped in a life of comfort and stability. However, a tragic accident would soon alter their fate irrevocably. The family's only son, the cherished heir, fell from a balcony, resulting in his untimely death. This loss devastated the Coo family, erasing the glory they once enjoyed. The grief of losing a child left a gaping wound in the hearts of Mr. and Mrs. Coo. Within many traditional Asian families, sons occupy an irreplaceable role, and the absence of a male heir was seen as a potential end to the family legacy. To Mr. Coo, his son was not just a child, but the very heir of the family. As a traditional patriarch, he could not fathom a future without a male successor. In the wake of this tragedy, he presented his wife with 2 stark choices: bear another son or face divorce. At over 40 years old, Mrs. Coo faced daunting odds against pregnancy. Yet, leveraging her expertise as a pharmacist, she resorted to self-treatment and ultimately succeeded. 9 months later, Andrew, their second son, entered the world. To the family's astonishment, Andrew bore a birthmark in the exact spot as their deceased first son. This uncanny coincidence led the Coo family to believe that his soul had returned to them. From that moment on, Andrew was enveloped in love and nurtured with an affection reserved for the returned child. In a twist of fate, the Coo family believed that Andrew, their newborn son, bore a birthmark in the same location as their deceased first child. This eerie resemblance ignited a deep conviction that his soul had been reborn. From that pivotal moment, Andrew was enveloped in an atmosphere of special affection, cherished as if he were the return of a lost loved one. In the 1970s, a significant wave of immigration from South Korea to the United States swept through, particularly among middle and upper-class families yearning for better educational opportunities for their children. The Coo family made the momentous decision to leave everything behind. Abandoning their careers, social standing, and connections, they embarked on a new life in the United States. In 1976, Mr. and Mrs. Coo settled in Chicago, opening a modest grocery store, a new beginning fraught with challenges. To assimilate, they gave their children American names. Their daughter became Catherine, and their son became Andrew. Despite the trials of starting anew, the family's relentless determination slowly transformed their circumstances, leading them to a comparatively comfortable lifestyle. Both children developed healthily, with Andrew, the youngest, exhibiting exceptional intelligence and maturity from a tender age. Instilled with a strong sense of family honor and obedience, he was the epitome of a dutiful son, remarkably well-behaved with an acute sense of responsibility. Every day after school, Andrew rushed to the family store, eager to assist his parents, sweeping and tidying without a hint of complaint. His academic prowess continuously surpassed his parents' expectations, showcasing his drive to succeed. From his early years in elementary school, he displayed an uncanny business acumen. During a business trip with his father, Andrew confidently presented interest cost reports in dollars, filling his father with immense pride and satisfaction. But in stark contrast, his sister Catherine struggled. Catherine was the rebellious spirit, a difficult child who felt overshadowed by Andrew's achievements. With all focus on her younger brother, she grew resentful, often performing poorly in school, which only added to the family's strain. Unwilling to conform, she resisted her parents' guidance and frequently clashed with their expectations. Deep down, Catherine harbored a resentment towards the traditional Korean family values that marginalized her, often resorting to lies as a means of escape. In her quest for freedom from the constraints imposed by her father, who held a rigid belief in prioritizing sons over daughters, Catherine found herself in a perilous position. Unable to accept his daughter's defiance, he resorted to traditional Asian methods of discipline, using threats and physical punishment in a desperate attempt to correct her behavior. The stark contrast between the siblings carved an unbridgeable chasm, casting a shadow over the Sayo family that was filled with hidden turmoil and unspoken pressures. The authoritarian and often violent approach of their father only fueled Catherine Sayo's growing resentment. As tensions escalated, the conflict between Catherine and Andrew Sayo deepened. The breaking point came unexpectedly after a heated phone call. One day, the family phone rang, and when Mr. Sayo picked up, a young man's voice burst through, demanding answers. "I'm your daughter's boyfriend. Where is she? Put her on the phone." The shockwave of that statement struck Mr. Sayo with both fury and disbelief. He could not fathom that his daughter, still in her early 20s, was entangled with such a man. In a household strict with traditional values, dating was strictly forbidden for American teenagers. Upon returning home, Catherine faced her father's wrath, enduring a barrage of harsh words followed by a violent slap. Yet Catherine stood her ground, refusing to submit. The conflict escalated, a chaotic exchange of anger and resentment that culminated in Catherine tearing her father's shirt collar and scratching his face. This defiance ignited a fury within Mr. Sayo, a man who prided himself on absolute authority, rendering him incapable of reining in his rage. In a moment of unrestrained fury, he grabbed a gas can, dousing himself and Catherine in gasoline, brandishing a lighter as a threat to end everything. Fortunately, the lighter failed to ignite just as Mrs. Sayo arrived home, swiftly intervening to stop the impending disaster. In that charged atmosphere, father and daughter resembled bitter enemies locked in a relentless battle, where love and respect had been overshadowed by rigidity and violence. Following this explosive encounter, the once familiar bond between Catherine and her father disintegrated, leaving them as mere strangers. It was perhaps from this moment that dark and negative seeds began to take root within Catherine's soul. In 1986, tragedy struck when Mr. Sayo, at the age of 57, was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Andrew, though only 11 years old, displayed a maturity and filial devotion far beyond his years. Daily, he visited his father in the hospital after school, tending to him with meticulous care, often staying overnight by his side. In a heartfelt gesture, he tied a thin string around both their wrists, allowing his father to pull it if he needed assistance. This touching act of love caught the attention of a local Korean newspaper, which published an article titled "The Golden Boy," celebrating Andrew's devotion. In stark contrast, Catherine remained absent, showing no concern for her ailing father during his hospital stay. She never visited him even once. When he ultimately passed away, she merely cast a glance and walked away. For her, her father's death evoked no remorse, no sadness for the past, but rather a sense of relief, as if she had shed a burdensome weight from her life. After Mr. Sayo's death, the family's responsibilities fell entirely on Mrs. Sayo, a widow in her 50s, struggling to raise 2 children in a foreign land. The years that followed were filled with hardship as she fought to make ends meet. Drawing from their savings, she opened a small laundromat in Evanston, Illinois. Andrew remained a steadfast supporter, always remembering his father's last wish for him to care for and support his mother. Each day, Andrew would come to the laundromat, offering help, and whenever he noticed his mother's sadness, he was quick to comfort her. His thoughtfulness and affection provided Mrs. Sayo with much-needed encouragement amidst the challenges of life. In complete contrast, Catherine embraced a lifestyle of freedom, casting aside any remnants of responsibility. Though still underage, it became routine for her to stay out all night. When she did return home, it was only to demand money from her mother, showing no regard for the struggles they faced. At the fitness club, a chance encounter brought Catherine Seo together with Robert Audebine, a man 7 years her senior. Charismatic and humorous, Robert captivated many young women, and Catherine felt an undeniable attraction. It wasn't long before they embarked on a romantic relationship, becoming lovers. Less than 2 years following the death of their father, tragedy struck the Seo family once again. In October 1987, 13-year-old Andrew Seo arrived at the laundromat after school, as he did every day, eager to assist his mother. As he approached, a disconcerting scene unfolded before him. The air was thick with confusion as police and ambulance lights flashed, illuminating the gathering crowd. Suddenly, 2 familiar figures emerged from the throng, his sister, Catherine, and her boyfriend, Robert. In a moment that would haunt him forever, Robert enveloped the sobbing Catherine in his arms and delivered the harrowing news. Their mother had been brutally murdered at the laundromat. The lifeless body of Mrs. Seo was discovered beneath a heap of clothes, her body marred by 35 stab wounds. Forensic experts determined that the assailant had pinned Mrs. Seo down, focusing their vicious attack primarily on her neck and upper body. The sheer brutality of the crime chilled investigators as they meticulously examined the scene. The investigation revealed that Mrs. Seo's wallet had vanished and the cash register lay open, missing $100. Initially, both the police and the community assumed this was a robbery that had gone awry. Yet the question lingered. Who would commit such a horrific murder for the sake of a mere $100? This seemed less like a robbery and more a crime fueled by deep-seated animosity. However, as detectives delved deeper, they found no solid leads, leaving the case shrouded in mystery and ultimately unresolved. The tragedy deepened as young Andrew was forced to confront the aftermath of the brutal crime. Alone, he cleaned the scene, an experience so harrowing that even years later it would bring him to tears. His white shirt stained crimson, the haunting scent of violence still lingering in the air. In one devastating night, Andrew lost both parents, rendering him a complete orphan. At just 18, Catherine became his sole remaining relative and legal guardian, shouldering the heavy burden of their shared grief. In the depths of his despair, Andrew urged Catherine to seek justice for their mother's murder, pleading for answers. However, Catherine, seemingly hardened by their loss, coldly reminded him that even the police had failed to uncover the truth. How could they possibly succeed where trained investigators had not? She insisted that life must go on. They needed to move forward. Shortly thereafter, Catherine invited Robert to live with them, a decision that would irrevocably alter the dynamics of their small family. In a move that ignited Andrew's fury, Catherine began discarding their mother's belongings, believing it necessary to sever ties with the past. Yet, at 13, Andrew felt powerless to protest. Over time, his relationship with Robert evolved. The man who had been Catherine's boyfriend gradually stepped into the role of a surrogate father for the orphaned boy. As the small family navigated the aftermath of their tragedy, life began to stabilize. Catherine and Robert channeled their energies into opening a high-end bar, while Andrew focused on his education at a preparatory school, each seeking a glimmer of hope amidst the shadows of their past. What Andrew Seo remained unaware of was that the money his sister, Catherine Seo, used to open the bar was actually his own. Mrs. Seo had taken out a life insurance policy worth $800,000, with her younger son named as the sole beneficiary, as Andrew was not yet of legal age. Catherine managed this inheritance, investing in the bar while also selling their old house to acquire a new one. In an upscale Chicago neighborhood, Catherine transformed her life. She purchased all new furniture, splurged on designer clothes worth a staggering $1,000, and bought a luxury car for her boyfriend. This newfound wealth allowed her to completely reinvent herself. Dressed in luxurious attire and sporting elaborate makeup, her friends struggled to recognize her. Meanwhile, Andrew was enrolled in the prestigious Loyola Academy Catholic High School, where his brilliance shone through. He excelled in his studies, achieving outstanding academic performance. Not only did he serve as class president and student body president, but he also played for the football team. As one of the few Asian students at the school, Andrew fully embraced American life, earning the admiration of both teachers and peers alike. His hard work paid off when he received a full scholarship to Providence College to study economics and Japanese. His future sparkled with promise, But everything changed abruptly on September 25, 1993, when gunshots echoed from the garage. Robert Odebain, just 31 years old, was discovered dead in the garage, having suffered 2 fatal gunshot wounds. Andrew's future had appeared radiant, brimming with promise. However, that bright trajectory was abruptly shattered on September 25, 1993, when gunshots shattered the silence of the garage. Robert, aged 31, was found lifeless, struck down by 2 fatal bullets. The scene was shrouded in mystery, with Robert's wallet and keys inexplicably vanished, leaving behind a chilling and suspicious tableau. As investigators delved into the case, they unearthed unsettling details. Andrew had departed school unexpectedly on the very day of the murder. Andrew's roommate recounted to police how Andrew had claimed a family matter required his immediate attention, never to return to campus. Another ominous detail emerged. Catherine had purchased a one-way plane ticket with cash. This ticket, bought from Providence to Chicago just 5 days prior to the murder, aligned perfectly with the time of Robert's death. Significantly, the ticket was registered under Andrew's name. These incriminating details painted a damning portrait of the siblings' potential involvement in the crime. The evidence was so compelling that it left authorities with no choice but to act. Police swiftly arrested Catherine, charging her with murder. Weeks later, Andrew was apprehended at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, moments away from boarding a flight back to Chicago. Authorities discovered $65,000 in his possession, along with Robert's wallet containing his identification. Remarkably, Andrew displayed an unsettling calmness in the face of such chaos. In a shocking turn of events, Andrew quickly confessed to the murder of Robert. His chilling admission left those around him in disbelief. How could a young man, once regarded as an exemplary student, descend into the depths of murder? After escaping, Andrew's decision to return raised unsettling questions. The investigation revealed a web of unresolved mysteries, with each thread leading back to his sister, Catherine. Their lives had appeared normal, but beneath the surface, turmoil brewed. Andrew often witnessed heated arguments between Catherine and Robert, her boyfriend. The root of their conflict was always the same: money. Catherine confided in Andrew that Robert was a gambling addict, tangled in affairs and often drinking heavily. One fateful day, Andrew came home to find Robert in the garage, intoxicated and mumbling cryptic words that would haunt him. In a moment of drunken clarity, Robert confronted Andrew, saying, "Do you know who the worst person in the world is? It's your sister. She has other men outside. Do you know why we can still be together? Because I know her secrets and she knows mine." Initially, Andrew brushed off Robert's ramblings, dismissing them as the incoherent thoughts of a man lost to alcohol. Catherine would often call her brother, primarily to voice her frustrations about Robert, sharing alarming tales of his violent outbursts. She recounted incidents where Robert had shattered windows and physically assaulted her. Hearing these accounts ignited a fierce anger in Andrew, prompting confrontations with Robert. The respect he once held for the man crumbled under the weight of these revelations. As the tension between Andrew and Robert escalated, Robert's bizarre accusations and growing paranoia regarding Catherine's fidelity only deepened the emotional chasm. It was a volatile mix, leading toward an unforeseen tragedy. During a school break, Andrew returned home to rest, only to be invited to dinner by Catherine. As they sat at the table, she dropped a bombshell that would forever alter their lives. "There's something I must be honest with you about," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. "Robert was actually the one who killed our mother." The confession shocked Andrew to his core. Catherine explained the depths of Robert's desperation, revealing how he had been drowning in debt. They had often clashed over money, and in a moment of dark irony she had once remarked, "When Mom dies, she'll leave behind a large sum of money, and your problems will be solved." Catherine insisted that her comment had been meant to comfort him, but in a horrifying twist of fate, Robert had actually murdered Mrs. Seo. Andrew's outrage erupted as he demanded to know why she hadn't gone to the police. Catherine's reply was steeped in fear. She believed that reporting Robert would implicate her as an accomplice. In her panic, she had even provided him with an alibi. Catherine was acutely aware that revealing the truth could land her behind bars. What Andrew didn't realize was that after their mother's murder, both Catherine and Robert had been scrutinized as suspects by law enforcement. However, their mutual alibis had shielded them from prosecution. As Catherine recounted this harrowing tale, a chilling thought emerged. She was now intent on persuading Andrew to take matters into his own hands and eliminate Robert. Despite Andrew's confession, both he and Catherine evaded charges, having crafted alibis for one another. In a moment of dark revelation, Catherine candidly revealed her intention to persuade Andrew to eliminate Robert. Andrew, grappling with the weight of family loyalty, recalled his sister's insistence that as the sole male in the family, he had to avenge their mother's death and erase the stain of disgrace that had fallen upon them. Though consumed by rage, Andrew steadfastly refused to commit murder and returned to the life of a high school student. Yet the relentless pressure from Catherine was unyielding. In the weeks that followed, she bombarded him with over 60 phone calls, reminding him of the emotional debt he owed to their deceased parents. Conflicted and beleaguered, Andrew ultimately succumbed to her demands. The traditional values instilled in him since childhood shackled him, binding him to obey the only family member he had left. On the fateful night of the crime, Catherine and her boyfriend, Robert Odebain, were both involved with other partners, maintaining an open relationship that permitted them to date freely. Catherine cleverly called Robert, feigning car trouble to lure him to the garage under the pretense of needing assistance. Meanwhile, Andrew prepared to follow through on his sister's sinister plot. Dressed in black, Andrew arrived at the garage, bringing a change of clothes as instructed. In the attic, he discovered a paper bag his sister had left behind, filled with a gun and a plane ticket, the tools of their dark design. As he waited, anxiety and fear gripped him, the seconds stretching into what felt like an eternity. When Robert finally arrived, Andrew raised the gun, his heart racing. In that harrowing moment, memories flooded back, images of a laundromat 13 years prior, where he had cleaned up the aftermath of violence, echoing his father's dying words to protect their mother. After ensuring Robert was dead, as Catherine had instructed, Andrew executed the escape plan, leaving the scene of the crime. But questions loomed large. Why did he plan to return to Chicago after fleeing? His motive was clear. He knew of Catherine's arrest and yearned to bail her out. Meanwhile, Catherine had no intention of waiting for her brother. She successfully orchestrated her own release through bribery and took residence in a high-rise apartment in Chicago. While living in luxury, she continued to date affluent men and crafted multiple identities, one of which included posing as a real estate broker named Keisha Kane. But in 1995, just 2 days before her trial was set to commence, she vanished without a trace. On the day of the trial, the judge was compelled to sign an arrest warrant, proceeding with the trial in absentia. After just 2 hours of jury deliberation, Andrew's fate hung in the balance, a chilling reminder of the chaos his sister had wrought. A 19-year-old, once destined for a bright future, found himself sentenced to 100 years in prison for murder. Catherine Seo, his older sister, was similarly condemned, convicted of first-degree murder and armed robbery, facing life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But where was Catherine at this critical juncture? In a desperate bid for freedom, she had assumed a new identity, changing her name to Tiffany and fleeing to Hawaii. This transformation was not superficial. She altered her appearance dramatically, from hair color to makeup and clothing, effectively becoming a stranger to her former self. In the tropical paradise of Hawaii, Catherine swiftly entered into a new relationship with a surfing instructor and personal trainer. Crafting a false identity as a wealthy heiress, she manipulated her boyfriend into purchasing a lavish apartment. Yet, this extravagant lifestyle proved to be fleeting. By January 1996, Catherine found herself on the infamous TV show America's Most Wanted, labeled as the #1 criminal. By March of that year, the heat of law enforcement compelled her to surrender at the FBI office in Diamond Head, though she steadfastly proclaimed her innocence throughout the trial. In a chilling display of defiance, Catherine refused to express remorse or apologize to Robert's grieving family. Her cold, unwavering gaze conveyed a disconcerting lack of empathy. The police were left to question what had compelled Catherine to wait. Years after their mother's tragic death, Catherine Seo orchestrated a sinister plot that would thrust her brother into a world of violence. Manipulating Andrew, she led him to murder her ex-boyfriend, Robert Odebain. Investigators soon uncovered a chilling motive, a life insurance policy worth $250,000, with Catherine named as the primary beneficiary. Andrew, however, remained blissfully unaware of this dark undercurrent. An even more disturbing possibility emerged from the shadows.
Could it be that Catherine had deceived Robert into committing the unthinkable, murdering their mother, solely for the financial gain of a hefty life insurance payout?
Yet the investigation stalled, hampered by a lack of concrete evidence. Was it true, as Catherine insisted, that Robert had taken their mother's life, leaving her only to cover up the crime? Or was she the mastermind, orchestrating the entire horrific affair from behind the scenes? Perhaps only Catherine held the keys to the truth, buried deep within her twisted heart. After serving a mere 4 months, her time in prison took a darker turn when she was sentenced to an additional 2 years for assaulting a prison guard, revealing her volatile nature. In a heart-wrenching correspondence, Andrew reached out to his sister, assuring her that he harbored no blame and that they were all they had left. In a cold and cutting reply, Catherine dismissed him with a chilling declaration, "I don't have a brother. Don't write to me again." As the years dragged on, Catherine remained resolute, refusing any visits. Her temper mirrored that of their father, a reflection of her inner turmoil. Meanwhile, Andrew transformed himself behind bars, becoming a model prisoner. He extended kindness to disabled inmates and volunteered in the prison's counseling department. He even passed the Illinois State Optometry Technician exam, earning a license and contributing his skills to a prison optical workshop. Despite the heavy burden of regret that weighed upon him, Andrew maintained an unwavering optimism and a positive outlook on life. Over the years, Andrew sought to reclaim his life by submitting clemency and sentence reduction petitions to 3 different Illinois governors in 2003, 2017, and 2020. Each attempt, however, ended in disappointment. Many defense attorneys rallied to his cause, advocating for a chance at a new beginning. Even Robert's brother and the now-retired judge who had presided over Andrew's trial did not oppose his early release. They recognized the truth. Andrew had been ensnared in a web of manipulation woven by his sister, a victim of her dark ambitions. In a desperate plea for redemption, Andrew Coo submitted yet another clemency petition to the governor in 2023. Within the pages of his application, he painted a haunting portrait of his past, an emotionally scarred orphan at the tender age of 13, betrayed by the very sister who had once been his closest confidant. Now a mature man, Andrew Coo felt the weight of his past pressing heavily upon him. Deeply remorseful for the horrific crime he had committed, he sought forgiveness and prayed fervently for a second chance at life. The good news arrived when his petition was finally approved. On January 2, 2024, he stepped out of the Western Illinois prison, a man reborn. Breathing in the crisp, free air for the first time in years, Andrew emotionally expressed his gratitude to the supporters who had stood by him through the darkest of times. In a celebration of his rebirth, he commemorated the moment with a traditional Korean tofu dish. As he looked ahead, he envisioned completing his college education, a new chapter waiting to unfold. The story of Andrew Coo and his sister, Catherine Coo, became one of the most shocking criminal cases in America during the 1990s. A Korean immigrant family, once filled with dreams of a better life, found themselves ensnared in tragedy, victims of human manipulation and greed. Andrew, once seen as an obedient and filial son, was seduced into a cycle of crime by his only sister, Catherine. A cold and calculating woman, she exploited their familial bond and the weight of traditional expectations, transforming her brother into an instrument of revenge. Yet, perhaps the deeper reflection lies in the profound impact of family dynamics on individual psychology. This story stands as a stark warning about the power of family and the invisible pressures that can lurk within. It illustrates how the closest blood bonds can morph into the most dangerous and destructive of relationships. And that concludes today's case. What are your thoughts on this harrowing story? Please share your comments below. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And that concludes today's case. What are your thoughts on this harrowing story? Please share your comments below. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.